Yeah, I think we're just going to kind of kick it off. So first, and thank you guys for coming here. We really appreciate y'all showing up. It really means a lot. Thank you. So let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, we can do it.
All right. Great. So before we really start getting into the questions, I'd love for everybody to just give a quick introduction about themselves. Who are you? What do you do? How do you relate to the fashion space? And just, what brings you here?
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie. I currently hold a position at Fendi for visual windows and special projects. I've been in the fashion industry for about 14 years, straight out of college. I have a long retail experience and started an accessories designer handbag line.
Give her, come on, round of applause. Let's go. I hope your hands are sore by the end of the night, okay?
Yes. Hi everyone, I'm Evita Scoccia. I'm the CEO and founder of the Art Suite. I'm a full-time events coordinator with Lifetime, and I also have my own swimwear brand.
Over the head. Hi everyone, my name is Melissa B. Craft. I'm a dancer, model, and a content creator here in New York City. Dance and fashion has been something that I've been combining together since 2013 when I first moved here, so it's a big part of my life, and I get to do really fun and exciting things with it now that I have a bigger platform, and I'm excited to be here with you tonight.
Hi everyone, my name is Alan. I run a brand called AKINGS based out of New York. I became mostly popular for my shirt jean, as some of you may know, and people can wear it regardless of their height from 4'11" to 7'1", and it was kind of the stack jean setting of the time periods. And now I make random content on social media as well. I still run the brand, but I help incubate like creative brands and launch them.
Yeah.
Pass this back around.
All right, this is going to be a challenge.
Now we got it.
So we'll try to make this work. Bear with us, everybody. So, I'm not a fashion guy. All I wear is black all day long. I'm sure you've seen me out more than once. You'll know I probably wear one of the same 10 black shirts that I always have. So I'm very fortunate to be here with a lot of folks who are really tied into the nuance of fashion. So I wanted to kind of kick it off and talk to you a little bit about, how the industry has really, how we can kind of be timeless in an industry that's kind of focused on seasonality and change, right? So in an industry like fashion, which is consistently driven with change and seasonality, I said the question as I was talking. How will you define timeless creativity in fashion? And what does timelessness mean to you in a world where virality can often dictate value? And I think we're going to start with Natalie. It's going to be very conversational. We have one mic, and I appreciate you guys.
Am I going to be the first every time?
No. Can you guys all hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
I don't need the mic. Okay, you guys hold the mic.
Okay, so I guess defining the word timeless or timeless creativity. I think from my experience, I've seen defining timeless is more than just creating a piece that'll go viral, right? So it's something more of a statement that kind of connects and resonates with the customer. It's not only crossing the boundaries universally and globally, but something that can stick to the context in different eras and different cultures. So it's something that kind of brings us humans globally all together while staying innovative, while focusing on the craftsmanship, the quality of the piece, the product. Something that, I can have a luxury handbag like Chanel or Fendi and later on pass that 10 years later to my daughter, to my granddaughter. Something that the craftsmanship is so great that will not wear and tear for most years. So that's kind of how I define timeless.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so kind of piggyback off your answer about, you can, when you're timeless, about being creative right within your brand. So for me, I would, you can always hop on those short-term trends, right? So for me, I kind of want to share that message and style, which is within my production and always keeping that same value. So whenever people come to my shows, I want them to always know what they're going to get in that experience.
Very cool. It's an interesting thing to get the perspective of timeless from someone who works with a brand like Fendi that's been around for a really long time, whereas something that the industry that I'm in, obviously I work with fashion, but what I'm creating for myself now is actually very new. So it's like, how can I create something that's new but withstands the test of time also while I'm building an audience? And I want people to trust me. And I think that being timeless is being trustworthy, and it's being authentic, and including those, like having my audience know what to expect from me and being authentic in what I create goes along like with what both of you said. But it's a very interesting space to be in, where it's so easy to get caught up in everyone wants to know what's hot, and everyone wants to get people to stop scrolling and go to their page. And so it's really easy to hop on these trends, and sometimes trends are good to follow, but to know what's right for you and what's authentic to you, I think authenticity is timeless to me.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah, so when I think about timeless, I also think about consistency. Like when I first launched my brand and the current jeans blew up, and I think a lot of people don't know, it's just a trend, and it kind of evolved into the storytelling of how I told what the benefits are for the current jean. You know, at first it was, hey, maybe it's just stacked jeans and this is trending because Kanye is wearing really long 18 jeans or something like that. And then over time it became, hey, like actually, well, you have this woman that happens to be wearing it, but the curvature of the pants allow her to wear it, even though it's even though she has curves versus like a man, right? So I think the storytelling and consistently telling the story in different ways actually is like really related to what Melissa was saying earlier about how does your content or your product consistently tell a different story to this same audience, but it's also different at the same time. And I think that consistency over a long period of time is actually what creates timeless brands. Yeah.
Do you want it, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you know,
Take it back.
You know, I think it's really interesting because a lot of us in this space right now are in the social media world, like in different forms, right? We're not all in fashion. We're not all in beauty. I most certainly am not. And I think, you know, it's one of those things where we really have to try to identify who we are, what we care about, why we're sharing our content, right? Because at the end of the day, we're doing this for a reason. It's all fun. It's all games. You know, at a certain point until you realize, well, there's something that I want out of this, right? There's something that I want to build. There's something that I want to grow. And there's something that I want to establish myself as. And that's a lot of the reason why we're kind of all up here and why we're doing the things we do. And, you know, I think one of the really interesting things that I kind of hear a lot about are the opportunities with partnerships between creators and brands, right? You know, I think it's really hard to build a really cohesive collaboration between a brand and a creator. Obviously, as creators, we want to be able to have more freedom. Brands have some guidelines that they have to ensure that are met during the content. But I think what's really tough sometimes is finding ways to blend the two, right? How do we find seamless ways to integrate product into our content? How do we kind of stop the noise on social media a little bit, kind of like what they're all saying, like, yes, we want to showcase our content in a really unique way. But I think what's really important is like, you know, we talked very, you know, about timelessness, but I think it's, you know, how do we leave a lasting impression, right? I think that's kind of something I'm really curious to hear from all of you guys. Like, we want to do it. Like, can you give me an example of a collaboration or a partnership that you guys have had, you know, creator to brand, brand to creator, that you felt has been more of a longer term opportunity where you've seen that that structure kind of evolve over time? And it doesn't have to be in order. We can kind of take it however we want. So, Melissa, do you want?
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah.
My arms are not that long.
Okay, I'll give two examples of this. So, like I said, I've been blending dance and fashion for a really long time. And so that's been a really exciting thing for my page. A lot of the collaborations I do are with fashion brands because when I dance, I can dance. I typically dance wearing either crazy clothes or very stylized clothes. And so it's a very easy segue for me to do collaborations with, hey, can you dance wearing our shoes? Can you dance wearing our jacket XYZ? So a cool thing that I'll say, that something that turned into a longer term collaboration for me was I was already authentically wearing Fossil jewelry, and I had just
what's Fossil jewelry?
Fossil, just like it's like a jewelry accessory brand.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's a brand. I thought you were wearing like a dinosaur.
Oh no, not the dinosaur brand, no. But the brand Fossil. I had some jewelry from Fossil that I authentically just tagged on my page already. They messaged me back and they're like, "Oh, so glad that you enjoy wearing Fossil." Time goes by, and I'm also a very big nerd, and I post some Harry Potter content as well. And they came out with a Harry Potter collection. And because I had begun that relationship with them early on, already authentically enjoying them and using them, when that came along, they were like, hey, we've been keeping an eye on your page. We know that this would make sense for you. And so they reached out to me, and that ended up being one of my biggest jobs that I've done so far on social media. And it was just me creating like, here's an authentic connection. I already used this. And then time went by and it came back around, which is very cool.
And how long was it until that happened, where you had posted something on social?
February to October.
And then, so 7 months later, they came to you and were like,
yes.
Okay.
They had mentioned, hey, since you mentioned us, we've been keeping an eye on your page. We know that you're someone who uses our brand. We were just waiting for the right opportunity to come along.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And I guess one of the things that I'm really curious to know about too is like, you know, we have two folks here who run special events, who do these incredible activations in person. Like, how do you find some of these creators kind of in the wild as, you know, you're looking to bring people onto your shows? And same thing with Alan, like you're looking for collaborators constantly.
I'm actually very curious about this.
Like, how are you going out there and finding people to walk in your runway shows, to be at your live events, to collaborate with you in your fashion and design? And how much does social play a role in the way that you find people? Whoever wants to.
You want to go first? Me?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I got really lucky with the realization of the jeans being able to fit so many people at the same time was I started asking people really early on social media, and it became like this trend that was, hey, there's millions of people are suddenly watching this, and then we got over like 40,000 submissions of just different people.
Oh, wow, that's so many.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit to process. We definitely didn't get through all of them. And it got to the point where we're like, okay, like, we kind of need to backtrack, and we'll figure out later. But when I think about things actually now, I think it's a little bit different than when I first started. Like now when I think about it, for anybody starting their brand, or I actually try to think about, hey, like, does this person maybe represent what I also think the brand represents, or would like myself to also be aligned with, right? So there's very, so for AKINGS, like I think about it, hey, like if the product as a male is like, hey, we make you feel like a king, like is there a degree of confidence in how they carry themselves, whether it's on social media or just how they are in person, and how does that translate to that full video? But in terms of overall socials, it's pretty lighthearted, I think, in terms of how I've done it. And over the years, it's become just, I guess, socially acceptable to be like, hey, like, regardless of your height and weight and experience, you can just cast and be a model. But when I first started doing this, it was actually like all the magazines were like, hey, because you're not using agency models, you don't want to feature this, you're just using Instagram models. Or you know, just kind
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved and definitely been like a lot more open. But now I feel like I've gone the reverse, and I'm like, hey, like, you know, I'm more like, hey, like, I want to be more selective now.
For me, well, for Near So Wing, we kind of just started off with the logo. And from there, I kind of just sold that experience of like, for women to, you know, want to walk in my show, and men as well, of like just different videos of like women empowerment, like walking and swimwear, and just selling that, like, oh my God, I want to be her. Like, how do I be her? And that's kind of how I like drove in the models to be a part of my show. And then with influencers, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely was on Instagram typing New York City influencer, like going hard and deep. Like, it was a lot of work to like find anyone, right? So it's definitely a lot of work in the beginning, but once you start making connections and like doing shows and events and photo shoots, you meet somebody and it's like a snowball, and you continue to grow your market with influencers and models to be part of your event.
Very cool.
My turn it off. My experience is a little different because I have worked for both starting my own brand and working for corporations and brands that have been around for a longevity of time. I think to capture influencers and creators and coming and inviting them to our special events in particular, it is kind of seeking the authenticity part, as we mentioned before, how is that creator, how is that influencer going to come into our space and tell a story in a different way and add value in a way that we haven't already shown in our kind of social media space or our storytelling? I think right now, as Ellen mentioned, social's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more lighthearted. So the customer and the consumer wants raw. They want behind the scenes. They want interviews. They want backstage access. They want to be a part of that, to feel like they're a part of that. And an influencer and a creator is kind of, that liaison to the everyday consumer of like, oh wow, like I can be like that. Like that's so cool. She went to a Fendi show. She went to this special event. So it's more about seeking the authenticity of who is, Kim, who is Alicia going to these events, kind of sharing their story and how they are going to tell it. But at the same time, being on brand and aligning with our values and our morals of the brand. So it's a little tricky at times to choose the right people to come to make those decisions. But at the end of the day, it should be playful, it should be fun, and it should be you. There's no one else like you out there, no other creator, influencer, and I think you can keep up with the trends and doing the TikToks and the reels that everyone else is doing, but at the same time, you have to show you. And I think at the end of the day, that's what a brand wants is you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, shameless plug here. If you haven't already been on my newsletter, check it out. But I wrote something the other day that was really kind of focused more on these very high-end fashion brands, very couture, like Louis Vuitton, Hermes. I hope I'm saying it right.
Very good.
Thank you. My mom is in fashion. She appreciates this. Dior. A lot of like the top fashion brands. If you I would really recommend, later tonight or after the event, just go look at one of the top 5, 10 fashion couture brands on TikTok, and tell me what they're doing that's really great. Like from the perspective of a creator, a lot of these brands, and I'd love to hear. I know you're not a socialist necessarily. I don't want to shit talk Fendi. So I think that what's really tough though is I want to see that. I'm not in this world. I'd love to go to Fendi event. I'm not going to the Fendi events. I did not really go. I didn't go swimming. We went to the after party. That was fun. But I'm not a model. I'm not a designer. I don't get to see this world, at all. But I would love to. I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see the behind the scenes. I'd love to feel like there's that human element to fashion, because for so long in this space, people haven't always felt good about being in fashion or the clothes that they wear. And I think it's really interesting to kind of capture those moments. And I would really challenge everybody to go onto one of these social channels and just kind of ask why. Why don't you think they're doing it right? Why don't you think these brands are approaching it from more of a creator perspective? And that might be the right way. It might not be the right way. They're a brand. They're entitled to kind of approach it however they want. But, this isn't necessarily a full question, but I'm very curious to hear, your perspective, Melissa, as a model being on the runway as you're going to these events, are you getting to do this behind the scenes coverage? Are you getting to do dances on set? Why don't I see people if anybody saw the Derek Zoolander 2 movie and how Ben Stiller kind of grabbed somebody's phone in the middle of doing a runway show? Why aren't anybody going out there and creating content even on the runway? I'd love to kind of question and push you on that a little bit.
Okay, interesting. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm a performer, I'm a dancer, and I'm a model. And whenever I'm asked if I walk for a brand or I perform for a brand, my priority is professionalism for the brand. And so something like that, it's that's a viral moment, and there's a lot of potential there for a viral moment. But at the same time, you risk your status with the brand that you're representing at the same time,
Totally.
And especially me being a dancer, I grew up in ballet class where if your pinky's in the wrong place, they come for you. So whenever I'm working, professionalism is first. And then if I'm able to record, and you always need to, this is another thing, you always have to ask permission, make sure that you're okay to record things behind the scenes, because a lot of things are not something that really belongs to you. You're just representing the brand. So that would be my first answer for that. But I actually have an interesting example that I can give you of, something similar to this. So my first red carpet I ever went to was for J-Lo's documentary. And I was so excited because I was invited to attend the red carpet. I was invited to attend the premiere and go to the red carpet. And then the Netflix team was like, hey, you're a dancer, you're an influencer, and you're attending our carpet. We're going to stage a flash mob for J-Lo on the carpet. So then they actually hired dancers to be behind the scenes. And the idea was that it was going to be like, everything's professional. You're doing your job. You're doing these interviews on the carpet. And then all of a sudden music starts, one person starts dancing. And then all of a sudden these people come from the crowds and you start dancing. And it was this whole thing. But it was very, very staged. So it's an interesting, it ended up being a very viral moment too, which is cool. So like to your point, why aren't more things like that happening? But I think it's kind of a hard bridge to gap of I'm there to do a job and I'm going to fulfill my requests of being a professional and doing what I do best. And also something sneaky could happen here and we could have fun with it. And I think that, you know, when I did it and it was viral, it was planned. And so it's really hard. I think a lot of times when models show up, they're there to do their job. And so I think that's probably why you don't see it happening more.
Yeah, I get that. I guess I don't need the mic. I guess
Okay.
I'm really curious. Sorry if this is like me screaming, but I'm trying to talk. So, I'm really curious from Alan and Evita's perspective though, like, I know you host your own shows, Evita. Alan, I know that you're doing so much with your brand. Like, how do you craft those moments? Like at the, for New York Fashion Week, for some of these massive brands, they might never do that. And I totally understand the perspective of like not doing it from a brand safety, for a brand safety reason.
It's a scary thing. You feel afraid because you want to like go and represent well yourself.
But not even from the creator side, from the brand side. Like I get why they don't do that.
Yeah.
But when Swim Week is a very established brand, obviously AKINGS is as well, but like you have the flexibility. You are founders, you're the ones who've developed these platforms. Like, how are you looking at that? Are you trying to build that out? Like, you have the ability to give some of that freedom. Like, have you thought about maybe doing that? And maybe how have you thought about incorporating that in some of, your shows?
Yeah, for me, so that's like a tricky thing. It kind of like gives me the question with my designers, right? Like, when there are pieces on the runway, shoot the first time ever, So if someone's posting, something viral behind the scenes, and someone sees it, it's not that appeal where you're trying to tell a story. So for me, I think it's a great idea if it's planned and that's what the brand wants. But as a just like, representing designers, they want their pieces to be the first thing they see on the runway. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I could see, down the road.
I'm not a fashion guy. Like, I'm just curious. I want to know. I hope these questions are resonating with you because I'm like coming up with these on the spot. Thank you for the one person who said.
Wait, the question was why brands aren't doing viral moments?
Why? It's not about viral moments. It's like when you're a brand and you're the founder of a company, you get to play by your own rules, kind of. You get to decide what's right. You get to decide what's wrong to a certain extent. You get to decide what the safety and the guidelines look like. You as a founder can pretty much do. I know you have a brand that you are building, but like you have the ability to give that opportunity. Like even as yourself a creator, like are you doing that? Are you thinking about it and how?
Yeah, so I tested this. I feel like there's a couple of different things that happen, especially in high-end fashion.
Yeah.
And then like streetwear or even premium streetwear, because even at my price point of like $250, $450 jeans, we're not necessarily for everyone that is like a $60 jean.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's also a degree of when you're at a higher price point as well, that you do need to find a way to effectively get your story, but also you usually need to be first. And I think that's a really big differentiator. If either you're first or you're an improved version of some existing trend or something like that. And when you're at that point, it doesn't actually really matter how viral you go, in my opinion, to some degree.
Yeah.
Because like I've had videos go, let's say, 30 million, 60 million views and so on, but it doesn't always translate to the same sales as reaching 100,000 people. That's exactly my target audience.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you think about that, like on a brand level, like why doesn't Dior do couture? Why don't they have funny TikToks? It's like this funny TikTok is not converting a $3 million a year client for them. And if anything, you might lose a client because this client may be like, wow, like I respect you for the craftsmanship and what you guys have built as a legacy brand. And now you're over here making funny TikToks in the factory, you know?
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so I think there's a big risk for a lot of these legacy brands that have built an impressive client book. And I mean, I've seen that even when I transitioned to like meme content or some funny content on the brand or my personal side, some people in the comments are like, hey, like, this is your 10th meme, wear the clothes, you know, and I'm not following you, right? So the reverse is, hey, I'm like, okay, well, like, fuck you too, because I need to grow.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
That's the class right there.
Yeah.
True. It's true that.
That's true.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I love it.
Coming back around.
As something like super quick. Also, I feel like, not showing everything at first. It's like keeping it more like sexy, exclusive, right? Like Victoria's Secret. You don't know what happens behind the scenes, but when they're on the runway, you're like surprised and wow. And I feel like not always showing every exact thing that is designing your brand can be kind of more of like, I need to know more, that FOMO. So I think that's also really important as well.
Let me give one more. So
Creates intrigue.
Yeah. Thank you guys for that and give me a little bit of education. Obviously not my industry. I think like I very much appreciate depth and transparency and sometimes brutal honesty in the things that in the way I coordinate my life transparently. If anybody who actually has spoken to me for more than 5 minutes probably knows that. You can attest to that. A few of my buddies there. Yeah. So, I think one of the things I really like to talk about is discomfort and understanding vulnerability. And I think in the world of fashion, I didn't join Instagram growing up because I was very self-conscious. I didn't understand that there was education. I didn't understand that there were other things that were out there that could, kind of give me value. I just saw very attractive people posting Red Bull and, with their shirts off, and it didn't make me feel very great. I'm sure there are some of you guys who do that here. Sorry. So, I think it's so important to talk about that discomfort, especially within the fashion world, right? Like, I'd be very curious to hear, because all of you come from such unique backgrounds in this space. None of you have the same exact experience, and you're all doing this so uniquely to yourself. Like, how do you feel like you've pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone in fashion or content creation or personally with what you do? And how do you think that's kind of shaped the outcome of who you are today in developing your content? And whoever wants to start can just kind of take it. Okay.
So I think I've been very uncomfortable a lot, maybe my whole life or my whole career. But I think like the pivotal moment is when I first started my accessories brand, doing that first photo shoot. I was in California. I rented out a space in the desert, a Joshua Tree. I rented an RV. I didn't know that you needed a generator or how that worked, and I was planning to drive it myself. I hired models, and I was just doing the nines, and I was like, I got this. I'm going to do this. And then we get out there, and it's like 100 degrees. The model's like almost fainting, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to kill this girl. Like, just to get the photo. And it was like a very harsh learning curve for me, but that was the first time that I had the confidence in myself to do anything outside of working in retail or working for a brand. So I think out of all the uncomfortable experiences and situations, and I have a lot more stories, but we'll be here all night, I think that's the one that actually stood out to me of when I completed the photos. And to this day, I'm so proud of those photos and my just beginner self, and they came out amazing that I was like, wow, okay, I can do this. I can do something that seems unobtainable or unreachable, and it really wasn't. And then from there, I was just running off.
Amazing.
Okay, well, I'm not sure. Some of you may be already know the story, but obviously my swim show is where I was most uncomfortable, right? So I'm, in college, in my 20s, there's COVID. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this now. No one really thought it could be anything. And she was actually one of my first designers. There was a hot mess back there. We were like, oh my God, is this happening? We like kind of yes, I know, but it ended up amazing as well as it became this big brand. But I think just that moment of where you're just like, should I do this? Like, I have no idea what is going to happen. That's the moment you need to do it, because that's when you push yourself, and the best and businesses, ideas, everything comes in that pressure moment. And I think that is part of the journey. And I honestly love that moment. And I take it in every day. And I think if you want to do anything, just do it. It will happen. Trust me.
Yeah! This side here is really crushing. Where's the rest of the people? Like, thank you. That's what I like to hear, people.
A cool thing too, I got to dance in Swim Week this year. I got to be in the final number, so it was very cool. And Evita, just to speak on you for a second, you're very beautifully generous with your connections, and I appreciate you how much you bring people together. It's just a very cool thing about you.
Yeah.
This is it. But back to the question, I spent my entire life outside of my comfort zone, but it didn't always, it hasn't always been like this, but I held myself back for a really long time because I was afraid of my peers thinking I was not perfect enough. And I think, doing scary things, actually speaking in front of a crowd of people who I don't know is not so scary. But if my peers were here, I think it would be kind of scary. And it's something that you just, when I made the decision that I was just going to start doing it anyways and putting stuff out there and sharing my art, everything changed for me. And I think it's an interesting thing to go from being like, I'm not perfect enough, it's not perfect enough, I can't put it out there, to actually I have something valuable to say, and there's at least a few people who are going to resonate with me and who are going to relate to me. And maybe, I've said from the beginning, if I inspire one person, then my job is done. And I think that's a really cool thing. But before I started creating on social media, because I was too afraid to create on social media, the biggest audience I had performed for was 18,000 people at Barclays Center, because I danced for the Brooklyn Nets, which is a big crowd. It's a huge crowd of people. And when I was unemployed during the pandemic because the NBA shut down. And when I started creating content and I had my first viral video, someone said to me, Melissa, how many Barclays Centers is 1 million people? And I thought, wow, that's like 50 Barclays Center. I've never had an audience this big before. And if I had stayed scared and stayed in my comfort zone, that would have never happened. And so it's cool. But again, I just think to what Evita said, if you're scared, that's okay. Be scared and do it anyways. And try to find a community of people who support you. That's very, very important. And just chase your dreams. You can triumph over failure. And like Evita said, you can do it. You really can. Yeah. You want to say something? Yeah.
I know we all talked for quite.
Yeah, we did. Sorry.
No. I guess for me, it's like, can you tell us how you've pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone? Have you done something where you've been like, hey, you know what? I didn't really think that I could do this, but then you finally did it, and it kind of changed the way that you perceived yourself or your content. Like, just an example of kind of where unless you've always been just this confident.
So I think when a lot of people ask me, is like, hey, like, how did you have, I guess, confidence to start a brand? And my first brand was when I was around 15 years old.
Wow.
And the simple answer was actually, it wasn't necessarily confidence. It was just, I didn't overthink it. And maybe it was just a bit of ignorance, like, hey, like, there's no marketing plan. I just want to make some t-shirts and put it out there. And I think almost sometimes that overthinking or just that simple jump of, hey, like, okay, let's just do things and get feedback from it as fast as possible has always been in me. And I've always wanted to just create and put things out there. And I think that over the years, when I think about confidence, one thing that as I've noticed has been a recurring theme in the other stories has been the community or peer group of friends around. And I think I've been really grateful to have built that over years as well. And thinking back to having the nickname of Alan King growing up and then it becoming something that people are calling you, or just people around you that are also doing different things creatively. For me, it was really important to surround myself with those people. And as they were progressing, it pushed me to also as well. And I think when we set these goals and we see them kind of coming and happening, I feel like over time, the consistency of reaching those things is actually what gets you this confidence. But of course, every time that it's unknown, it definitely feels like, hey, like, are you sure? But I think over even the small wins throughout the day kind of allow you to build something within yourself to go after whatever it is.
Very cool.
So,
Aw.
I got it. So, I have a few more questions, but I really want to turn it over to some of you guys. I think, this group of people will never be sitting on the same couch, panel, whatever this is. And, ever again, probably. And I think this is a very unique setting to kind of share your truth or ask a question, whether it's to all of us, to one of us. I'd like to have maybe 2 or 3 people ask a question. Yeah. And I can repeat it too so everybody can hear.
Okay.
What you want to say your name?
My name is Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler.
My question is about collaborations. So, I started or founded a luxury fashion showroom in North Carolina, which included brands like Margiela and Balmain. I
Very cool.
personally inked a deal with 2 headliners for a show, Erykah Badu and Nas.
Oh, wow.
And when I informed our brands that my store was partnering with them, they offered to give us exclusive drops. Exclusive drops like clothes, shoes, etc. We dress the headliners to help promote their brand. My question is,
I should have came
how
over
do
here and asked.
you appeal to larger companies to see collaborations as a net benefit or a net add to their company, so then you can help elevate yourself from being a smaller brand to being like a Supreme or a Kith?
Did everybody hear that, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for projecting. I'm gonna give it to Alan. I feel like he's probably the best person to chat to this.
Okay, so short version of the question is how to align yourself with other brands to build your personal brand. It's kind of okay. I think in the very beginning, it's definitely finding those brands that you respect and have these like goals of, hey, like you want to collaborate with them as well, right? But also like what does it stand for and what does it mean for your personal brand? And then when I think about it, I also think like, hey, like what are the other non-competitor brands that maybe are easier to get to potentially, right? Than the gold brands, right? And like what is the other things that maybe that you can be in a vertical? I mean, one thing that comes to mind is like, let's say athleisure is like, hey, like maybe you want to do aloe men's and but maybe athletic greens is an easier grab because they're signing so many creators, right? So like you find these easier wins, and then you are aligned with this portfolio of brands when you go to your dream brand in a sense. The other thing is also like figuring out what that brand wants. Like, hey, like if the brand is if the brand has a clear direction of something that maybe they're missing and you feel like you can bring to the table, and definitely pushing that deal is a lot easier. But if you don't have the idea right away, but you can consistently kind of show up for the brand in some way, I think also that gets you through the door and people definitely notice like you've seen, yeah.
Totally. Once either of you?
I think
Good.
yeah.
Good.
I think that's good. Or do you want to talk to me now? Okay. Yeah. You want to just pass it back?
Yes. Here you go.
So, I think we're gonna do 1, maybe 2 more questions. Do one of you guys just want to come up here? It's probably hard to project.
Woo!
Okay.
Go, girl.
You want to say your name, what you do, the question?
Sure.
Yeah. Take the mic.
Hi guys, my name is Naya. I work for a marketing agency. My question for you guys is, what's one mistake that you guys made during your journey? And what's one piece of advice that you can give from that mistake?
That's a good question.
Okay, thank you. Naya, right?
Yes.
Thank you. We can keep it short and sweet too.
Yeah.
We'll do
I think for me the biggest one that I think about this really not in terms of mistakes, but I've kind of adjusted over the years is I still kept the same, I guess, relentless speed or focus on what I want to go after, but I've also learned to really enjoy and appreciate the wins along the way a lot more, and be really grateful for who has like kind of helped me bring that win in. And I think it's the biggest lesson actually has been for me is I think just being kinder on myself or like the team that I'm working on with to bring that win together. And just over the years, that's definitely helped a lot. Yeah.
It's a great question, by the way. I would say the biggest mistake that I have made in just my career in general is not realizing how important building your network is early on. And I wish I was actually telling, we were talking about this earlier. I wish I knew 5 years ago how important building a network that I have now is. And also just being generous with your connections. And so when you meet somebody, connecting the dots of like, now we know each other and actually you two have this in common and we can kind of, you really connect the dots and you never know what's going to come of who you meet and who you connect. And sometimes really awesome things happen to people because of who you connected them with. And I think that's a really beautiful thing because nobody can do this in the fashion industry. You can't do it alone. And if you are, I don't know who you are because it's like, it's very cutthroat. You need a community surrounding you. You need support. And so build your network, be generous with your connections. And yeah, I think just show up and be kind. And I think if I knew that 5 years ago, I would be doing things that I'm probably going to be doing in 5 years from now.
Okay, so for me, I don't think anything is a mistake. I think everything is something that you can learn from. So I don't like that word. For me, is delegating roles sooner. I think this year is my first show that I was able to, each somebody have their own role. And most of my support team, I think, is over here. It's just, yes, as a CEO and founder, you want to do everything. You think no one can do it better, but actually there's somebody that maybe can do it better or they have ideas that you don't even think about. So I honestly am going to continue to grow my team and I can't wait for what's next. So I guess a mistake or a learning that I've learned through the years is when I was younger, I would say yes to anything and everything. If it sounded cool, yes. Great brand, a great influencer, great, yes, yes, yes. But I think over time, time is very limited and your time is precious. And I think weeding through and kind of being a little more selective, not super selective, but just finding the balance of knowing who you want to work with, who you want to work for, who you want to collaborate, and saying yes to opportunities or events that may be in your interest, or even if you're passionate about it, you're happy, if it doesn't align with your brand or your entity, just be mindful. Yeah, that's the biggest mistake.
Yeah. All right. I might answer this one too.
Here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually going to answer this one too if you guys care about me.
Yes.
Love my growing up. Thank you. So, I've had the opportunity to work with some very big companies over the years. I started my career at Nielsen. For those of you who are marketing, it's a massive, market research firm. And then I left to go work at TikTok. I think for me, I was always kind of looking for my person in the corporate world. Like I was looking for somebody to be my leader who could kind of guide me a little bit, a mentor, somebody who could kind of teach me the ways of what I was hoping to learn, whether that was, somebody who was really intelligent or charismatic or ambitious. And, over the years, I never really found that. And I think, as much as I believe in collaboration like nobody else, like everybody else here, obviously it's why we're here, right? Let's meet more people, let's find collaborations. But I think for me, my biggest lesson has always been like, you got to do it yourself. Like, if you want to do something, if you want to get something done, like, nobody's really going to do it for you. Yes, they can help you build connections, they can help you build opportunities, you can strategize with people, but ultimately, nobody's going to be that person for you. If you want to be the charismatic person, if you want to be the ambitious person, the intelligent person, you have to do it for yourself. And that's something that I've really been reflecting on and something that I've been trying to carry with me over the past year or two. And I've been very fortunate that a lot of the people in this crowd, even though, who are here, who showed up multiple times, are really good friends of mine. And, I'm very grateful for that. So, I think at this point, I think we're going to cap it. Let's just give it up for our panel. That was fucking incredible, right? So amazing.
I have a question for everyone, and then we'll be done. If it's quick.
I just forget what I said.
Okay, there's one more question, super quick. So everyone's gonna say I think it was the last question you were gonna ask. It was like, what legacy do you want to leave in the fashion world or your business? Oh, just maybe like 2 seconds. So my legacy, the only thing I want to leave is just to inspire someone or anyone just to be your authentic self.
Yes.
Block out all the loud noise, block out everything going on, just be you, because at the end of the day, that's who you live with, that's who you will die with, so.
I'll answer it last.
Okay. Okay. For me, doing what I do now was not even a possibility in my mind when I was younger. My 18-year-old self, I don't think would. If I told her what I was doing now, I don't think she would believe me. And so I think the biggest thing that I would say, like my legacy, like I said earlier, if I inspire one person, like if somebody looks at what I create and the work that I do and they say, wow, I want to do that, and because of her, I believe I can, then that's the legacy that I want to leave. Sorry.
So I think personally the biggest driver for me is kind of life on my terms, and I think about that a lot in how I do things. But when I think about legacy for brand or myself or as a person, an individual, actually the bigger thing I kind of think about is more like, hey, like what would I like to if I was to die like tomorrow, what would my tombstone kind of say? And I think it's like a really something that really, when I first heard that, it was something that really left goosebumps into me. And I actually think like, hey, on the business side or like whatever, it doesn't necessarily matter as much. But for me, I would like to think that I was helpful to friends and genuine to people, and prioritize like family and friends and people around me that I care for. So if I can take care of that side, and then everything else I think kind of works out because of just who I consider friends and so on. Yeah.
Super cool.
You know, this was a question that I was going to ask, but I wasn't ready to answering it.
We have to.
You know, I think from I want people to think differently. I really do. I think I want people to be more strategic and creative and try to connect the dots between things that don't necessarily make sense. Like, you know, I love whimsy. I love like Willy Wonka, like the true joy and imagination that people kind of have on their face as they see something for the first time. As we get older, we don't experience that. And I think it's like one of those TikToks where you see like a baby eat ice cream for the first time, just like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that. And I want to leave that from a creative standpoint, whether it's campaigns or creative strategy or building my own brand someday outside of XL Daddy. I want to be like G1 out there, but like really Willy Wonka. That's kind of the thought.
Very cool.
Okay, answer my own question. For me, my legacy is to, you know, promote like, are you happy? And someone asked me that the other day, and I was like, what does that even mean, you know? And I was also in this class about like creating, and he said that most people, like, you know, when they're on their deathbed, they're like, oh, I wish I would have did this or would have did that, you know? So I think just honestly for me is anything is possible. Be happy, that's super important, and just enjoy life, because at the end of the day, it's not that real. You know, we're all here trying to make it, do what we want, and be happy. So love everyone.
Let me just grab that. Good job. So we're going to do 2 final round of applause, and some of your hands probably hurt. Let's give it one more time for our incredible panel. Thank you so much. You know, this night can't happen without all of you here, and I think, you know, we are so grateful that you all decided to show up. The friends who we've made over the past few years and the new friends who we're going to make, you know, we really appreciate you here. And also, just one final applause. I guess I was going to give you 2. One final applause for my amazing partner in this event, Evita. She did a great, incredible job. I could not do this without her. And I would love for you guys to give yourself a round of applause for staying and being here. It really is a joy to have you all. And I hope you come away from this event with some incredible new connections, some opportunities to collaborate, and hopefully some opportunities to create some whimsy too. So thank you all so much. And we're going to, you know, you're welcome now. We're going to grab more drinks and, you know, hopefully continue for the rest of the night. So thank you guys.